Right.
All right. So, welcome to a new episode of Purposeful Empathy. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Hyder Khoja, who works at the forefront of innovation in the life sciences. We could otherwise describe him as an emblematic life science impresario. We talked about that in our pre-call. I look forward to unpacking all of his work. His 2 decades of expertise in molecular drug discovery, development, science, and policy have led him to many distinguished positions in scientific research and business development for health, nutraceuticals, and psychedelics. He has a track record of linking scientific talent and capital to integrate existing technologies in new and productive ways. We're going to unpack all of that shortly. Welcome to the show, Hyder.
Welcome so much. Thanks so much, Dr. Novak, for inviting me here. I'll be very
Pleasure.
happy and
Oh my goodness.
enthusiastic.
I'm so excited to have you on this conversation because I love talking to people who are in the sciences. And I know that you'll have a lot to say about empathy and science, neuroscience. But I think it would be helpful for anybody listening to kind of get a sense of your career trajectory and some of the things that you've been doing at the interface of innovation with the life sciences to situate our conversation.
Sure. Thank you so much. So actually, I come from a plant sciences background. My undergrads were from the agriculture university. I'm South Asian, so I'm from Pakistan originally, born and raised there, and did my bachelor's and master's in plant breeding and genetics. So it's always it always given me a kind of site that I have to look into certain more details into it. So I've chosen cytogenetics as a part of my master's program. I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to pursue for my PhD and to France, and I did my doctorate in molecular biology, further refining, where I downregulated some genes in fruit ripening process, so the fruit can stay longer in the shelf life. So that was a very interesting kind of path to go into genetics and being work into plant sciences. When I first moved to the United States to do my postdoctorate in 2004, working at Michigan State University, I looked into another form of plants, another kind of genetic genomes that were very well known, called Arabidopsis thaliana, where I learned more sequencing, more ideas, how to connect, and all those things. So it's keep building because I was in the environment where there was a lot of scientists. And from there on, I said, that my journey should be somewhere where it's really resonate to what I would like to do. So again, I wanted to be a geneticist, but I wanted to work into a nutritional form of product that can consume by humans that can be more healthier, more profound for their continuation of the life journey. So I end up going into the pharmaceutical industry as well. I moved here in 2011 in Vancouver. First, I started with small company with Dr. David Suzuki's foundation. One of his organizations were looking into collecting a black soldier fly insect and extracting larvae's protein from it and making fish feed farming for fish farming industry. So that was very much interesting project everybody was doing. And I looked into it, okay, there and keep working, finding my ways to figure it out where exactly science lead me to. Many times I thought I become, a assistant professor or a lecturer in a university, but then I said it's really, limits my goals where I'm going because I was too much into different science fields. And what ended up happening is that I looked into the philosophies of people putting the research patterns to me, sending to me to read and literature reviews. So I said, let's find it now where I have to go. And I end up looking into nutraceutical drug discoveries programs. I'm continuously working on that, and that's been my passion. And currently, I'm working in the same field, and it how it resonates with the empathy and all that. That's something that I would like to really share with you.
Oh, I can't wait to unpack that. So, just so for people who are not familiar, including me, what are nutraceuticals? What does that mean exactly?
So a nutraceutical, the word nutraceutical comes from a nutrients or a nutrients that comes into or present in the plants or animal food or animal meat. So wherever we get it, that's what we eat. So we get the nutrition from them. So my focus is the general plant nutrition, where it comes from the general eating. For example, you eat carrots, You eat bananas, what you get from it. So from banana, you get potassium, for example, and from carrot, you get a beta carotene, vitamin C, and from same for lemon and or many other crops that you eat regularly on regular diets. So what I'm looking into currently and in the past also, that what nutrients you get are healthier for you and how long you can persist into your body and how you flourish through it. So that's the focus of, and that's the word nutraceutical comes from. Now, nutraceutical, the other part of the word, it's actually resonate with the industrial, meaning the product when it goes to the market, when it's consumed by people, that become a company. So that become a pharmaceutical or nutraceutical or bioceutical. So any word in front is kind of, so that's its nutraceuticals related to the work that is work in nutrition.
That's interesting because I imagine as a scientist, you've come across science that's pretty exciting where plant-based diets or plant organisms, like you just described with the potassium in a banana, could have a benefit in our bodies. But I think that there's probably a lot of abuse within that space, misinformation, claims
Yes.
that are unfounded. I'm curious to know what you think, given the very exciting renaissance around psychedelics as plant-based medicine. What you think about the industry as a whole in its sort of reascension and the potential it could play? I know you personally have done some research around comas, which I'm going to ask you about, but just in general, you have arrived on the west coast of Canada at a time where everything's kind of really moving. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean I know that the industry is booming, and every time the human tendency is to look for some new ventures, new things, new innovations, and every human has that thing in mind. And this year, this decade, I would say, has been a bombardment with many technologies. You can see AI coming up. You see a big electronic vehicles are in the on the roads and things are coming set. So same as for psychedelic, but psychedelic has been there for a long time, many even before my birth, many years back. And what it is exactly stands is a term called psycho, and it means related to your brain, and active, which is activates your brain in certain ways. So people say any psychoactive material is basically utilized for the human health or brain mental health. So the term psychedelics is actually again stands out. And it's because it uses that psychoactive compound that exists in different plants sources and make it as a product for the public to use. Um, I know the industry is very stigmatic, and many years when people were thinking about few years back, cannabis was the same idea, but there were compounds were very healthy, very unique for men for medical purposes like cannabinoids and THC. Now people have to distinguish the recreational market as a non-recreational market. For the cannabis industry, for example, people use it more as a recreational than as a medical purpose. That's why it was very confusing. Psychedelic is more of a medical, more of a medicine part of, more of a mental health. And that's been very, igniting for people's views. The reason being because the compounds that you found in plants are very rare and they are very, in a certain way, that since it's been prohibited, because the abuse can also give you an adverse effect, how toxic it becomes in your livers. Now, psychoactive have been shown, especially psychedelics have shown that it has been very less or negligible toxic effect in human body. And that's the reason that the universities like John Hopkins, Imperial College of London, and many other good universities, Ivy schools are putting a lot of efforts to build this, that this is real, and people who are in mental health issues can alleviate that problems. I have seen many people come with, I mean, myself and many others, regular basis have a mental problem. I mean, they doesn't want to show it because it's very rare. Any anxiety, any depression in your life that you have, separation, if you have a pet that died and you have that anxiety or depression, that also part of your mental health, how much financial issues. And as the world is going through a lot of migrations, people are coming from in the adverse environments that there's a war going on, they are also having that trauma. Same for PTSDs. So is there any way that we can find a medicine for them to soothe it? And for general public, okay, for the larger public, how we can do that. So I think the psychedelic research that I have put forward, along with many other colleagues around the world, that really going to bring a legitimate way of alleviating this disorder that has been carried out by. And I would strongly suggest for people who think that mental illness is an illness, that this is stigma, just stick out of it, because you are us. We all are similar in the same boat, and I think it's that's what it is. And I think psychedelics going to play a bigger role in many years to come. And it's not going to be any other drugs, like any street drugs you talk about, psychoactive. Any street drugs has a positive effect and negative effect. Even sugar, you take 3 spoons in your tea would be in a bad effect to your body. Same for the salt, so they become poison for you. But how moderate amount you say, and only for those who really require that medicine, not for general public. So
What's
that's
very
my take.
exciting about some of the research you've done in psychedelics, which I had not heard of. So I had come across psychedelic use for PTSD, anxiety, OCD, a bunch of mental illnesses, but I had never come across research related to comas. And you have spearheaded research on coma resurrection therapy. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, this is very interesting topic, and I can tell you the story behind it and why I took in this journey. As my career comes from the plant sciences and the pharma, as I mentioned earlier, so the things were moving, and I was looking for some ideas that how I really it's gonna help. And there are a lot of people, a lot of different companies are focusing on mental health as a general. Mental health is a bigger general umbrella, and under which it is anxiety, depression, autism, dementia,
Mhm.
Alzheimer's, and each are connected to each other. So when I looked into it, there everybody's working, but there are some areas that people are not thinking or think that it doesn't really matter as it happens. What happens is when you have a heart attack, God forbid, someone has a heart attack on the road, paramedic comes and give a CPR. CPR did not exist 3 decades ago, 2 decades ago, and they created this technology to give that same idea for your brain. When brain is been struck by traumatic brain injury or non-traumatic brain injury, now what happened to your brain is either a structural damage to your brain or non-structural damage to your brain. If it's a structural damage to your brain, you have basically have damaged a lot of brain, meaning your internal brain organs have been damaged, and it's really hard to really take. And eventually the death happens. But for the non-structural damage, where you have a stroke, a person have a heart attack and went or been fainted through, hit by a normal injury, but they're just faint for a few minutes. If you don't take care of them, they might go to a permanent brain death or the death by himself. So how what I'm looking into is to people who had those strokes and people who are in this kind of situation have been into a vegetative state for a long time on, and they're just lying on the bed and just spending their life cycle their life, because within 2 3 years eventually they deteriorate and they die because the brain is stuck somewhere. Where I see is we in our brain we have neuroplasticity and the neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters play a role where it takes the signals from outer environment and an internal environment. So God has given, and nature has given us senses, and we are just using 5% or five senses. There are so many senses which we don't know. Like for example, a person who can see have a better senses in either smelling or listening, and his brain functions differently than a normal person who can see. So basically, those senses are not being counted in a literature, but only five senses. So I just talk about touch sense, a sense of touch, which can when you touch something, it transmit your neurons a signal saying that this is what you are touching. Now, in a sense, when you're sleep mode, when you're sleeping, you might touch something, but your brain is not conceiving what you are touching it. Or, for example, you know something and you touch by closing your eyes and you know the phone is like this, so you touch phone, you say, oh yeah, this is a phone or this is my glasses. It because your internal memory, which has in the folder of your brain for so many years that says this is what it is, and whenever you touch it, you say this, for example. So I give you another example. When a child is young and it's just growing. And if parents say, this color, actually it's red to us, but this color is yellow. So he will learn yellow all his life. And when he turns 20 years or 14 years or whatever, whichever age, and you ask what this red color is, he will say yellow because his brain said this is yellow. That's what it's learned. What happens in our brain throughout our journey of life, we capture so much memory, and it's been like a computer taking all the information and keeping it. And that's right for you because that's your brain, that's your computer. It's keeping right things to you. Now, whatever you think give us wrong, it will not accept that. It will only accept what you have given. And in these people who are unconscious and unconscious, if we are in the conscious stage, when we sleep, for example, we put an alarm that we want to wake up at 5 in the morning. But our biological rhythm says that before 5, we wake up somehow. And we see, it's still not 5 o'clock. What happened? When it's gonna ring? And when it rings, we turn off some time and we say, okay, 5 more minutes. Because our brain registered that the 5 o'clock we have to wait. Even we don't put an alarm, but sometime by mistake, if you don't put an alarm and you'll have a better sleep, but you miss that boat too. So what I'm trying to suggest is the conscious, our conscious and unconscious, there is very, glass shield that separates it. And what happened is if that's not ignited in these patients, that what is missing. So unconscious people, they have that, but there is a glass shield which is not letting them go through to really wake up. And what I'm looking into a area called a reticulum activating system in the brain that governs this consciousness and unconsciousness state of a mind. That where I'm looking into. So how we can ignite those molecules or ignite the neurons which are sitting stagnant for so many years or so many months or maybe a day, that if it sparks like an ignition in the car, they can wake up. And these psychedelics products or psychedelic compounds, especially psilocybin and psilocin, comes from magic mushroom, which is a naturally existing compounds that you can extract from. Beside many compounds you find in those mushrooms, can really trigger those neurons and then spark the traffic. So in our brain, one more, if I have to suggest someone, say, hey, you are going from Vancouver, must go to Whistler and enjoy your trip. He says, sure. And he takes a ride in the morning and the car, it takes half an hour. And when he comes back, I said, what did you see through? He said, wow, so beautiful. I saw mountains, I saw water, I saw people, I saw so many trees, scenic view, all good. Okay. I can ask you another question. How many cars did you count? Oh, I didn't I saw so many cars that I didn't hardly count. It could be 1,000, it could be 500. Okay, what were the colors did you register? Oh, maybe five. But he's not sure because the amount of his concentration was only on scenic. Because I told him in advance, when you go, it's scenic view. I didn't say when you go, must count the cars, or count the numbers of the colors of the cars. So what he was focused was there. Same idea for our brain. We keep registering, and it's unlimited RAM in our brain. We keep registering, and there's somewhere. And when it's either with a traumatic injury, it's bombards, either you go in the stroke or you fail or you depress or anxiety because your registration has really have disturbed. So what we have to do with these molecules, which are safe to take, that these people who are lost their memories, short-term memories, can come back for at least for some time. If they can't come for a whole, that at least they can meet their parent relatives and say, "Oh, I was injured, but I couldn't say sorry to you because I had been hard to you, or I've been very happy to see you guys, but I have to go." Or maybe they come to life forever. I know in scientific and medical terms, but when the brain death, basically you are dead or you everything killed. But what I argue with medical, that if the brain is dead, then how is controlling the rhythm of your biology? Your blood is circulating in a normal way. Your blood pressure might be up and down, but you are alive. Your heart is beating. It's not like pumping like you're jogging. So where is the brain? Brain is somewhere. It has stopped. So what I did is I looked into it and I found that maybe the chip in which you saved or the disk we used to have in past in the computers, you saved your memory and it's been kept away, and it's not in computers, it's not accessing. Now I give them this access and put it back and say, are you there? This is, and they wake up. And honestly, I'm saying, Dr. Novick, that I've looked into people who came back without using psychedelics. They came up after 3 months. And when you ask them, what was your experience? Some would say, we don't know. We just think that it happened yesterday. We just came to, so they were stuck in that time. Some had a journey. People who had a journey, sometimes they don't want to share you. But if you really are close to them, they open up and they say what they have seen. And that's what these people who are like us can take psychedelics, can experience the same thing that they've experienced, meaning they have connected to something that has very valuable to me. And I think if not me, someone in medical history will bring this to that coma patient can come back to life. That's what I.
Incredibly exciting, and leads me to ask another important question. I'm going to put this up right now because we're going to drop. I'm seeing that we have less than a minute. Can you rejoin the same Zoom meeting? Okay. See you there.
Same,
Yeah,
great. Okay.
same. Okay. See you in a minute.